Welcome everyone to Instrumentation. This channel is going to be focused on the industrial instrumentation field. Now, in industrial instrumentation, you have two sides to it. You have the tech side, you have the fitter side. The tech side has multiple vocational schools, college classes, all this, everything. The fitter side really doesn't have anything. You have to pretty much learn that in the field. So where I work, we'll get guys in every now and then that want to learn this trade, and they get the opportunity here and there to learn. And honestly, a few of us out here, we've taught quite a bit at this point. So the whole idea here is this might be a way I can reach out a little bit further. Anyway, let's go ahead and pop a top on a cold beer. I'm choosing black and tans myself. Let's get started in this video, huh? So, first of all, let's go through a couple of the tools you need. You'll, of course, need all the basic tools: tape measure, level, square, wrenches, everything like that. The main tool here, the tube and bender itself. Most commonly 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2 inch. They have quite a few numbers and everything on them. We're going to go through that in just a second here. Let me get you a good picture of that real quick. There we are. Every number, every letter, it's got a meaning to it. Well, here we got our cutters. You know, these, you got different styles, but these just, you unscrew and loosen up. You screw down to tighten up. You run it around the tube. Once you're locked on, you want to tighten it up in different spots each time. Tighten up a little bit at a time. Keep working around until the tube basically is cut in half. Then your reamer basically polishes the outside and the inside and takes the burrs off of it. Unfortunately, my reamer here goes from 3/16, let's turn this around, 3/16 to 1 3/8. Dang, that's blurry. 3/16 to 1 3/8. I got 1/4 inch tubing to work with right here. This is a low budget set, if you ever want to call it a set. Hence the beer. Well, we're going to go through this real quick. Let's put a few bends in this tube. You basically you have two really common bends. That's a 45 and a 90. Let's talk about how to do them real quick. We're going to put a couple random marks on this tube. This one, we'll just get these two close to the same. They're not quite the same, but they'll work. Then we're going to go all the way back here. I bumped the camera. Tell you what, we're going to even go back here with another mark. Didn't measure or anything. This is just random at this point. Let's say the first bend you got to do is a 45. Let's talk about how to do a 45. I'm going to put the tube in the bender. We're going to put it about right here, and I'm going to explain why in a second. I'm going to close this little hook down on it. All right. So your bender, you got numbers on the top, you got numbers on the bottom. We're going to talk about that in a second. You got a 0, 45, an R, and an L. When bending, you always want the tube, the end you're bending, to be the left side of the tube. That's the easiest way I have to explain it. Why this L is actually going to be your 90 mark. If the tube was flipped around and we were bending from the right side first, let's see if I can do this without hitting anything. We were bending from the right side first, we'd want to use that R. That's it. That's a reverse 90. I usually refer to it when I'm teaching the guys as a left-handed and a right-handed because it makes sense to them. But just remember, anytime you've been in tubing, if you can help it, you want the tube end to be facing your right. You want to be working off of the left end. Fair enough? All right, back to this. You got two zeros. You want to line those up. Then you want your line on the tube, and it's going to be hard to see in here. But But we want our tube to line up with this 45. That is the center of your 45 bend. There we are. Unfortunately, if I turn it away from the camera in any direction, it looks like I'm off. So I got to hold it perfectly square here. But there we are. That first mark is going to be the exact center of our 45. We go ahead and bend. We want to bring our 0 mark up here down to our 45 mark down here. And that gives us our first 45. There we are. All right, we're going to do this a second time on this other mark. I'm just going to take our marker real quick. And you want a ultra fine tip marker. Sharpie makes quite a few. Most people use Sharpie. Me, I use the dollar store brand because I find they actually wash off the tube after a couple rains. They're cheaper. You get multiple colors. You get a yellow as well. You just have to throw it out. So you get like 7 markers for basically the same price as the Sharpies. And they last, I'd say, almost as long, maybe half as long. So you're coming out better still with them. So we're just going to transfer our mark around real quick to this side of the tube. The reason I'm doing that, we're working from the opposite side now. We're going to do the same thing. Tubing in it. We're going to lock our little clip down. We're going to line up our 2 zeros. And we're going to get this on the 45 line. Again, hard to see, but there we are on our 45. Now, we just got to look at the end and make sure it's straight. On a smaller piece of tubing, I will show y'all that a little bit better. And I'll show you a little trick I have for that. But we're just talking about degrees and bends right now. So we bend it. There we are. 2 45s, 90 degrees of bends, but that gives us a union bank, and that's almost square. Not perfectly, but we'll talk more about union banks later as well. So here we got our next line. We're going to go ahead and do a 90 real quick. Put the tube in. We're going to leave it a little bit further out. Leave our line a little bit further out this time, because the 90, again, you want to line your 2 zeros up. 2 zeros are lined up. We're going to move our tube a little bit, not much. You want it to line up on this L. Remember, because you start it from the left-hand side, you want to use this L. And we make our bend. Now this time we're going to bring our 0 mark all the way down to the 90. And later on, I will get into reverse bends and everything, and of course gang tubing and all that. Multiple tubes at a time, all that good stuff. But there we are. Okay, let's put one more mark on it real quick, huh? This one, actually, you know what? Yeah, we're going to put a mark on it. This one, I'm going to have to transfer around as well. We're going to show a 90 one more time just so... So we got it good. So here's our 90. We're really close to the end, the shortest bend we could possibly make. Oh, we got a little bit of room, but again, same thing as before, line the 2 zeros up. Put our line, our center line on the 90, on the L. And actually, see if I can show this, but it is on the L. It's on the 0. There we are. I'll move it out of focus just a second. Just to square up the tube, and we're going to bend. 0 down to the 90 again. 0 up here, down to our 90. So there we are. 2 45s, 2 90s. Alright, now we're going to I'm going to come back to the benders in just a second here, but we're going to use the cutters real quick. Instead, you just put the cutters in here, the tubing in the cutters right here on the wheels. Tighten it down a little bit, not too tight. You don't want to crush the tube. I knocked something off the table, don't worry about it. Run it around a few times. We got actually a handle here to do it. It doesn't matter. Some people do this here. Again, you just want to tighten in a different spot each time. But when you got a small piece of tubing, it's easy to do that right there. There we are. We've got our cut piece. If you see on our cut piece, it's actually it pushes the metal in towards the middle of the tubing. That's where our reamer would come into play. And this point would go in it and just kind of shave away all that, make it flush and nice again. Again, unfortunately, the only reamer I have here is a little bit too big for the tubing, but the outside still works. That would do the same thing on the outside and just kind of bring this end down to a point, kind of. Not too much of a point, but it would smooth it out. Okay, back to our benders. I'll tell you guys, if you got a set of benders, you want them tight. You want to be able to pretty much do this with them. It's great. I put them in this hand. I got my finger right here so I can close this hook if I need. I can reach with my other hand, control the top. So yeah, I can't stand a loose pair of benders. That's one thing. I will tighten them up. They got a little washer back here. You can kind of bend a little bit if they're too loose, even after you tighten them up. We'll get more into that later as well. But you've got all your different bends, your different degrees right here that you can make all the way to 180. And I'll tell you guys, in the future we will do this. You got your benders actually come in two different radiuses. We'll talk more about that as well. So you got your 0, your 45. You notice I've got two lines in between the 45, the 0 and the 45. That's for a 15 and a 30. Those aren't very common bends, but sometimes you do have to make those. And that's just the center mark for them. That's what all this is a center mark up here. That's why you want your line to match this mark up here so that it's centered. Okay, you've also got a little line back here on the bender. That is the shortest bend you can make. That is the shortest amount you can put a tube in a bender here, is that line right there. And honestly, bend a 90 real quick, but I usually don't even use that line. We'll flip this around real quick. I usually bring the tubing to the end of my benders, unless I just can't. But just something I like to do, nothing else. There you go, that's your benders. Okay, anything past a 90, we'll unscrew the handle. Again, we will show this more later as well, but doing this through a camera is a little difficult. But say you've already bent the tube down to a 90, you switch this handle around, and now you can grab it and go on to the 180. That we will absolutely show that in the future as well. But anyway, this is a quick, it's actually going to be quite long for a video. But that's us, guys. We bent a little piece of tubing. We got a couple 90s in this piece now. Got a scrap piece I was playing with earlier. There we go. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stick around. There will be quite a bit more content later on.